Say hey everybody, welcome back to Sorare FP. I'm Alex Hooper, bringing you another tier list. Yes, we're going through the rewards on Sorare MLB and tiering each one. I'm just doing some of the interesting ones. If you caught the tier 5 video, you know how this goes. But if you didn't, check us out. Head to the channel, click down below, and go back and watch Tier 5. There actually were a lot of folks from the Tier 5 list that have moved up to Tier 4. We'll cover a couple of them maybe here. Obviously, if they were ranked in the Tier 5 video, then we're not going to feel great about them being moved up to Tier 4. But just a quick little explainer before I hop in. We are ranking these rewards by how happy I would be or how happy I think you should be if you won a reward in this tier and wound up with each corresponding reward. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Tier 4 is going to start with, it's Alejandro Kirk. I dropped these guys in the 0 before I make my decision. Actually, you know what? He's not been playing a ton. He had a slow off season. I know he had to come back he had a family situation or something like that, but it's looking like Brandon Belt is getting a lot of action at DH, and that has actually moved Alejandro Kirk to mostly a bench role. If this continues and with it the way that it is, I'm actually going to drop Alejandro Kirk. I'm going to drop him to the D row, actually. I was under the impression that he was playing pretty much every day, but he is not. He's getting he's playing not even every other day. He's playing like once and then 2 days off and then playing once again. And he's catching most of the time and not DHing all that much. So if he's not playing, he is not going to get a high spot on this list. I need to take a look because he was a guy who people really liked his skills as a hitter. I know he didn't generate a ton of power, but yeah, I mean, his xWOBA is the 27th percentile, 35th percentile barrel rate. He's not doing much at all, just 2 homers. Never a big exit velocity guy. I mean, he's like 5'8". Not a guy who generates a ton of power, but I think we expected a little bit more from him than this, and just not a lot of solid contact. So, yeah, he's in the D row for now, even as a tier 4, just because he's not playing, and when he does, he's not making much of it. So, disappointing start. Alejandro Kirk, I thought he would be a lot higher. Matt Carpenter has entered the chat. Another guy who I think he's more of a backup. He gets sparing time. He plays against righties. He's just a platoon guy against righties. So as a tier 4, I'm comfortable leaving him in the 0. You know, he's 37 years old, something like that. He had that crazy couple of weeks last year, right around the launch, actually, of Sorare MLB, and he was hitting homers like crazy. Not so much now. He's barreling it up, but he's still below league average in terms of xWOBA. He's 37 years old, but if you get him as a tier 4, you're just happy to have another body in your lineup, and I think you can be okay with winning him here. I think that's a solid C. All right, Ranger Suarez, I see here. That feels like a hard C tier for me. Suarez actually, last year, he had a pretty solid run of form. He was not allowing a lot of hard contact. He was not allowing a lot of runs. And then he came back a little late this year, and he's been getting tagged early on. Yeah, 9.82 ERA over 3 starts, 11 innings pitched, and a 2 whip. As a tier 4, again, like last year, he was pretty solid. 10-7 last year, the 3.65 ERA. Not quite 1-to-1 strikeouts. Yeah, he's a pitcher you can throw out there in a good matchup. I don't see any problem with him. All right. This is Edward Cabrera of the Miami Marlins. I would be happy with that upon first look. It's not a rookie card, but Edward Cabrera is 25. He throws very hard, above average velocity every pitch that he throws. Over 4 seasons, not a lot to show. He's a solid K guy, about 1.5 per inning. So you'll take that just about any day of the week. 91st percentile whiff rate, 83rd percentile K rate, but he does walk a ton. And he's about league average in terms of batted ball data against. Last year, in 14 starts, 3.01 ERA, and like I said, 75 strikeouts and 71 2/3 innings. So not quite 1.5 strikeouts, just about around 1. Young guy As a tier 4, I'm going to move him up to a B. I'd rather have him than Suarez. I'd rather have him than Carpenter, and that's because of age and the strikeouts, and that's the two things that he has over a guy like Carpenter and Suarez. Obviously, Carpenter's not a pitcher. All right, Miles Michaelis. I did win his super rare as a tier 4. I was not super up or down. It was a C for me at the time, despite the fact that he had just been absolutely horrendous. But he's bounced back. Not a big strikeout guy. Again, like Suarez, a guy who you can just kind of figure in if there's a good matchup. Today he had a terrible matchup at the Reds and he fired a fine outing. So he's not going to walk a lot of guys. He's going to hopefully suppress hard hit balls and just pull you through. He's not a guy you're dying to get in your lineup, but if you get him, sure, not so bad. He's also 34 years old, so not a dude that you're super excited about. I see Marcell Ozuna here. This is a guy who I have been projecting much higher than he has produced. He is a guy who has been failing his expected WOBA for a really long time, and then he had a mini breakout recently. His batted ball data is always great. 82nd percentile in xWOBA, 89th percentile barrel rate, 88th percentile x slug, 97th percentile max exit velocity, and he's on the best offense in baseball currently. Ozuna is on a run of 8 straight games played and 11 out of 12. That dates back to May 13th, so about, he's playing a lot more often as he's hit the ball well. He has a tier 4. I'm saying he's a solid B. He's only 32. He's not, circling the drain in terms of his career or anything like that. Hits the ball hard, and if I won him here, I would be very happy about it, honestly. I'm half tempted to move him up to an A as a tier 4, and I just might down the road. This is largely dependent on his playing time. If he continues to play, hitting after Ozzy Albies and making the contact that he does, I would be very happy for this. I'm actually just going to prohibitively move him up to, tier A. I feel comfortable with that. All right, Andrew Heaney might have a run of like mid-starting pitchers here. Andrew Heaney, I would say, is probably better than Miles Michaelis, but I don't know that I'd be as excited to get him as Edward Cabrera. So Heaney is 31. He's a lefty. He's got great batted ball data. Actually, his numbers are trending quite well. Just the 67% K rate. Does walk a few guys. Great spin. He's suppressing hard contact quite a bit. Let me check his season-long projections because based on his batted ball data, I'm pretty happy with him. And I would be happy if I won him here. 313 points projected the rest of the season. That is the 69th projected starting pitcher the rest of the year. I'm going to move him up to the B tier. I would rather have him than those two guys. I would feel about the same at this point with he and Edward Cabrera. Again, this is just purely speaking from a tier 4 standpoint. So, okay, Drew Smyly is next on the list. He is a good bit further down in the projections than Andrew Heaney, and another guy who, he started really well. He had a lights out, I think, first 3 appearances this year. Yeah, he's 5-1 on the year, over 10 starts, sub 3 ERA. Not going to get you a lot of strikeouts, 51 and 55 in a third innings, but again, suppressing contact. I'm hard pressed to move him out of the C row and into the B row with Heaney and Cabrera. He's a better pitcher than Cabrera right now, but he's 8 years older, 33. And again, Cabrera is going to have some blowouts. He's going to strike players out. Drew Smyly is not. So I'm going to have him above Ranger Suarez and Miles Michaelis. Like he's like a C+, but I'm not going to move him up. I'm going to say this twice because I know there's another guy like this, but here's Alex Lang from the Tigers. He is their closer. So if you get a closer in tier 4, you got to be happy about it. And he's pretty locked in on this job, I think. 21 appearances this year, 9 saves, 127 ERA, 28 strikeouts, and 21 in the third innings. He's got gas. He's got a heavy fastball. He's got a heater. He throws about 95 on average. 95th percentile expected batting average. 92nd percentile X slug. 90th percentile xERA divided by xWOBA, 92nd percentile K rate, 99th percentile whiff rate. Alex Lang has stuff. He just plays for a bad team, but he's going to make appearances. I'm going to move him up to the A row. He is a guy who, if you get him as a tier 4, you could start him realistically every week in your relief pitcher spot in your priority lineup. And I don't think you're that upset about it. He's going to show up. I don't know how many holds or saves he's going to get because, again, he is on the Tigers, but the Tigers are second in the AL Central. The AL Central is horrible, but he's getting opportunities. 9 saves in 21 appearances is pretty solid for a guy who doesn't really get a lot of opportunity. He's a former first-round pick. I like him a lot. I'm not going to say he's an S tier, but he's as good a player as we've seen, and probably my favorite guy on the board. He or Ozuna, I would be overjoyed as a tier 4. All right, here's Nick Pivetta. He is a starting pitcher. He has moved into the bullpen. That is an automatic F. I don't even really need to spend any amount of time on it. If you want Nick Pivetta as a tier 4, as a starting pitcher, you're not going to play him. You're not going to play a guy who gets relief pitch bonus in your starting pitcher slot. He's not going to pitch long enough. You're wasting a spot if you do that. You don't want to play him. He's an unplayable card right now. That's an F, and I hate to say that. I own his super rare. He was just a warm body I was starting. Now he is not that. Danny Jansen, the actual catcher for the Blue Jays. He's got some pop. He had a walk-off recently, and he is playing pretty much every day for a catcher. He does sit every third game. He DHs a couple. He's a pretty okay hitter. He's hurt right now. I did win him as a tier 4, as limited, and I was not overwhelmed. I was not disappointed. Part of me wants to move him down to a D. I am going to move him down to a D, actually. He's a catcher. He's not going to play 3 games in a weekend. He's going to play 3 games max in a midweek, and that generally doesn't help you. I don't really want Danny Jansen. I don't really want any catchers, even though he can hit the ball well, and he is in a good lineup. All right, Chris Taylor. Chris Taylor's interesting. It depends on what Chris Taylor you get. There are outfield versions. There are middle infield versions. There are multiple position Chris Taylors. So he's second base shortstop right now, it looks like. So purely middle infield. He's not really playing every day. So, again, we're going to damn him to the D row. As a matter of fact, his playing time is so sparing. It looks like he's just platooning against lefties. I'm going to drop him to the F row. That's a tier 5. If he's playing that little, that's a tier 5. Clark Schmidt, a relief pitcher, kind of masquerading as a starting pitcher. I have his relief pitcher card. He doesn't go deep into games, probably not going to be a starter long term. He gets hit around a lot. 10 starts, 6 earned, 1-1 strikeout, barely over. He is 27. There's room for him to bounce back, but I wouldn't play him over the rest of the guys here. He's going to go in the D row for me until he turns things around. James Karinchak. That's an interesting one. He has not been very good at all. I said that in the last video. He's been getting blown up quite a bit. I also don't care for him, period. First percentile barrel rate. That's a blow up waiting to happen. He's got a fastball, he's got a curveball, both of them good pitches, but he walks a ton of players and he's giving up a ton of hard contact. He is next in line in the closer position for the Guardians, but Clase would have to get hurt for him to take that step up. As a tier 4, he's probably fine to hold. As far as relief pitchers go, that's a pretty solid C for me. I would be happy to get him, or I would be okay with getting him, I should say. It's not gonna, it's not blowing the doors off or anything like that. My boy, it's Matt Brash. If you've been following the channel a long time, you know I have about 900 Matt Brash cards. He's an interesting one, man. He was a guy I bought a ton thinking that he would be a relief pitcher that turned into a starting pitcher. He is currently a relief pitcher. And also the idea of him moving up to a starting role really doesn't move the needle a ton anymore due to the 5-point bonus. Matt Brash is electric. 98th percentile K rate, 88th percentile X slug, 97th percentile barrel rate, 98th percentile whiff rate, 96th percentile fastball speed, that's 98, 96th percentile curve spin. He's got all of the stuff, but he's got about a 5 ERA this year. He's got 40 strikeouts in 20 innings, making him a solid guy to use in your relief spot if he's got a glut of games. It's hard for me to put him over Karinchak, but he's a better pitcher. He probably projects better long term. Yeah, those strikeouts are good. I'm gonna move him up to the B spot. I'm pretty biased here. I love Matt Brash. I don't care for James Karinchak. But if you get Matt Brash as a tier 4, I think I want him as a tier 3. I want his jersey mint, and I was ecstatic, but again, bias. He's been middle of the road in terms of results, but he gets the strikeouts. The stuff is there. He's going to come around. Eddie Rosario. I won him as a tier 4 in rare. I was pretty happy about it. He gets regular-ish playing time for the Braves. He had a hot start, and he's kind of regressed. Yeah, he doesn't hit against lefties, so you have to be aware of the platoon with him. And he has come back to earth. You know, he Ks a lot, 35th percentile. He doesn't walk ever. His xWOBA is now down to 27th percentile. Yeah, he doesn't walk. He's not slugging a ton. He's got a 680 OPS. That's a pretty solid C for me. He's playing a lot. He's very solidly a tier 4, and that's how you wind up here. All right, Owen Miller. I brought him up because I read a wonderful stat. Not very wonderful if you're a Cleveland Guardians fan like me. Owen Miller has more home runs in the last few days than I think the Guardians have as a team, and this is a guy they just kind of threw on the trash heap, and rightfully so. He's not very good. He hasn't been very good, but he's been very good lately for the Brewers, and he's playing quite a bit, actually. He's played 9 of his last 9, a lot against lefties, so that's why he's going to come in. This is not a locked down spot for Owen Miller. As a matter of fact, it might be just because of an injury. I don't know. I can't imagine why else he'd be in, but he plays solid defense at second base. Doesn't hit the ball very hard, but he doesn't strike out a ton. When he's making contact the way he's making it right now, he's a pretty serviceable player. He's got a 915 OPS and 109 plate appearances. That's quite good. And as a matter of fact, the Guardians could probably use a bat like that. Funny how that goes. Because this is not a locked-in spot, I'm tempted to leave him in the C row. And I realize we still don't have any hitters in the B row. I might move him up as a B minus because I know we're gonna have to crunch here soon. But for now, he's a C. I can't see. Oh, we do have it. We have Ozuna in the A row. What am I talking about? Yeah, Owen Miller. Just because I don't think he stays there, and I don't think he stays hot. Again, his hard hit rate is 13th percentile. His average exit velocity is 2nd percentile. This is not a guy who is a masher. He's having a good run. Dan Vogelbach. I'm sure I'm going to have to move him down. Let's check exactly how little he is playing. Pretty solid platoon. He's not going to hit against lefties, and he's not even hitting against righties. That's all I really need to say. I'll give him a D because he could find his way back into regular playing time against right-handed pitchers, and he does hit for power when he does play, or at least that's the idea. If he's not doing so, then he's not going to be playing. Pretty average across the board in terms of his expected stats and his barrel rate. He does walk a good amount and he hits the ball hard, but he's only got 2 homers. He's got a 701 OPS, and most of that is from all the walking that he's doing. So until he gets regular playing time, he's going to be a D. He can work his way back up to a C. All right, another pitcher, Brian Bayo from the Boston Red Sox. He was kind of on the fringe of their rotation. He's young. He's 24 years old. He throws hard, but he's getting hit hard. It's another one of these guys like Cabrera, like like Cabrera, just like Cabrera. He's young. He's getting tagged. He's still learning the game a little bit, but he's got heat. 1-to-1 strikeout. I would put him as a B minus here, right under Cabrera. I like Cabrera more long term. According to Fangraphs, Bayo is a future value 50. And Edward Cabrera is a future value 50. So yeah, I'm gonna keep Cabrera just ahead of him. I like his build, 6'5" compared to Bayo at 6'1". Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. All right, Andrew Chafin, S tier mustache. Unfortunately, that's about all I can say for him. He's been getting absolutely waxed for Arizona, and he has fallen out of the closer role pretty much. He's now a co-closer, kind of a lefty-righty situation. So he does have 2 holds and a save in the last week. He's actually 32. He's younger than I thought. All right. Andrew Chafin is rebounding a little bit. We're going to keep him in the C tier. Apparently, I don't know enough about him because, let's see, 97th percentile K rate. He's got 29 and 20 innings. He is a lefty. That's helpful. High whiff rate, high chase rate, and kind of middle of the road quality of contact against. So, all right, I dogged Chafin a little too early. He's solidly a C for a reliever. Because he doesn't have the closer role specifically, I'm not going to move him up. All right, Jorge Lopez, another relief pitcher for the Twins. Getting a nice little run here. Jorge Lopez is the setup man there. He's pretty quality. He's not really in a position to get saves, but he is going to get some holds. He appears enough. I'm okay with him kind of in that same vein as Karinchak. All right, this is Akil Baddoo. Bad team, young player, projected really well last year. He's 24, not hitting the ball hard at all. This is a tough one because I want to believe, and he is young, but he's not getting a ton of playing time. He's a 40 future value. I think I'm going to move Akil Baddoo into the D row. Yeah, he plays pretty regularly. I could leave him in the C row, but he's not doing much. He is young. I don't know what to make of that. I guess maybe you can be happy because you can hold him for a long period of time, but I'm going to say D. Louis Varlin, a nice rookie for the Twins. He's got promise. He's their number 10 prospect. He's only 25. He's got a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Kind of the same thing we're seeing with a lot of these other young guys. 4.18 ERA and 5 starts. Gets hit pretty hard. 22nd percentile hard hit rate. 35th percentile xERA divided by xWOBA. 10th percent barrel rate. So like he's getting barreled up, but he is getting strikeouts. He is getting whiffs. He is young. He's another young starter I don't put on the same tier as Bayo or Edwin Cabrera. Let's see, Fangraphs had those guys as 50 future values, and they've got Louis Varland as a future value 50 as well. That makes me want to move him up. Another young arm. He's a rookie card, so we are going to move him up, and we're going to avoid this log jam a little more. Here's a guy I would have been elated about a while ago, and when you told me that the steals were going to go up around the league. John Birdie, I thought was going to be running rampant in Miami. He's been playing quite a bit lately, 6 of the last 6. But before that, he was pretty spotty. You know, he's had runs of playing time, and he's gotten on base in that time, and he has stolen bases. He doesn't have any power potential. Like, this is, if he hits you a homer in a week, you're going to be absolutely elated. But, you know, he's 33. He doesn't hit the ball very hard. He's got to steal bases to really get things going. He's only got 7 in, 164 plate appearances, which have resulted in 7 stolen bases. So at 33 years old, an old man like me, I'm sorry to do it. I'm sorry to say it, but John Birdie's going to be in the D row for me until he gets either a lockdown spot or, you know, steals more than 7 bases. If he gets on, he needs to run. He's got 40 hits, and the fact that he's only got 7 stolen bases in that time is a little alarming. The fact that he's got a 98th percentile sprint speed, that kind of hurts my heart a little bit, but yeah, that's rough. I still don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Yenier Cano? Yenier Cano? I'm not quite sure, but what I am sure of is that this guy throws gas. 29 years old, 96-mile-an-hour fastball. Let me tell you his stats real quick. 100th percentile walk rate, 92nd percentile K rate, 92nd percentile expected batting average, 96th percentile X slug, 99th percentile xERA divided by xWOBA, 90th percentile barrel rate, 94th percentile chase rate, 82nd percentile fastball velocity, 20 games, 0.35 ERA, 28 strikeouts in 25 innings. He's not going to hurt you at all. He is solidly in the A tier. I want to move him up to the S tier. If he were a little younger, I definitely would, because he will be a closer at some point, somewhere, probably. But for now, he's just an extremely reliable setup man on a really good team. And that's good enough for an A for me. Jack Flaherty. Oh, what could have been. Jack Flaherty was once upon a time my Cy Young pick in a given season, but that was like 3-4 years ago. His fastball's down to 93. He has been good recently. His xWOBA trending in the right direction, but it's still 25th percentile, 7th percentile walk rate. He's got a 5.29 ERA. Still getting smacked around a decent amount. His xWOBA is higher than it's ever been. I'm bummed. He's 27. He's got some time to recover, but I wouldn't start him over a lot of these guys. Suarez, Michaelis, Smiley, maybe until he gets his strikeouts up. He's a 1-to-1 guy. I think I'm going to keep him in the C tier just for that reason, the fact that he's 27 compared to these kind of soft throwers being a little younger. But I don't know that I would be any more or less happy to get him. Brandon Belt is in the B row for now, but he's, like I said earlier in the video, he's been getting playing time. He's going to sit against lefties quite a bit. He's hitting fourth a lot of days for Toronto against righties, especially. He drops down in the order against lefties. He's not going to do much there. But Brandon Belt's 35. He's not ancient. He's not hitting the ball terribly well. He doesn't hit for a lot of power. He walks a little bit. That's about all I can say for him. And he's barreling it up a little bit, but it's not going anywhere. Low max exit velocity, 16th percentile xWOBA. When I look at Owen Miller, I think Brandon Belt should be in that same category. And also the fact that Matt Carpenter is a C, we're just going to put Brandon Belt right there as well. C it is. He does play, but he's not doing much with it. Corey Julks is an interesting one. He is a rookie. He does play for Houston. He's not a super highly touted prospect. First percentile xWOBA, 14th percentile barrel rate. I think the jig is up for Corey Julks. 27 years old as a rookie generally isn't a great thing. And yeah, he's headed back to the bench. I don't think he's a guy who is projected super well in his career. Yeah, a 40 future value, that's pretty mid. I'm going to drop him to the F row. I hate to say I want to move him up because he's a rookie card, but that's about all he's got going for him, unfortunately. Will Myers. How old is Will Myers these days? Will Myers is 32. Will Myers is a second percentile xWOBA, second percentile x batting average, third percentile x slug. He has a 540 OPS. I think he does play every day for the Reds, which is saying something because he shouldn't be. Been injured recently, been on the IL here and there. He does play every day. I guess he's a D because he technically can get you points, but he probably won't get you a lot. I've been a big Will Myers guy. I think this is the end for him. All right, Brandon Crawford. He ain't young. He doesn't hit very much, and he's been injured. I think he's on his way out. 36 years old, never really hit for a lot of power, only projects to hit 9 homers this year. I don't see a lot of reason to be excited about Brandon Crawford. How's he actually hitting the ball when he plays? Not good. Not good. We'll call him Will Myers light or Will Myers heavy, depending on which is better. He's slightly better. He strikes out a lot. He's still not hitting the ball very well at all. He's old. I am going to drop him into the F tier because he's on his way out and probably won't have a featuring spot on a team for probably the rest of his career. And I say that as someone who's admired Brandon Crawford for a really long time, a top tier defender, and a guy who found his power for a little bit in the last couple of years, but he's on his way out, and that's pretty unfortunate. Brent Rooker is our next one. Because of his name, I have thought that Brent Rooker is a rookie. He's actually 28. He's been smashing the ball this year for the A's. 95th percentile xWOBA, 93rd percentile x slug, 95th percentile barrel rate. He does whiff a lot, but he's a 6'4" corner outfielder who swings for the fences. 11 homers, 32 RBIs this year. He's got an OPS of 926 in this early season. 28 is not ancient. 28 is pretty solid. As a tier 4, I would be as happy to have him as Marcell Ozuna. So Brent Rooker's actually going to go into the A tier. I'm not over the moon to win him in a vacuum, but if I win a tier 4 and Brent Rooker's name comes up, I'm pretty okay with that. Alex Cobb, another pretty mid pitcher who's not going to strike out a ton. He's not Logan Webb, despite playing on the same team. He's not that type of guy, but he is suppressing contact quite a bit this year. His results don't exactly mirror the underlying numbers. Doesn't get a ton of chase. Doesn't get barreled up a ton, but he's not a 2.17 ERA guy. He does pitch in a pitcher's park. He's got 52 strikeouts in 58 innings. Pretty solidly mid, but he's better than Suarez and Michaelis and Smiley kind of in a vacuum. Um, but not good enough to go up to that B range for me. If I get Alex Cobb as a tier 4, I'm probably okay with it. Actually, you know what? The more that I look at it, I take it back. He's a B. He's a B. I do expect him to kind of regress a little bit. I might have to waffle on this. This one's tough because I don't think he has a ton of upside for you in that starting pitcher spot, but you don't need that all of the time. Yeah, he's got scores of 32, 32, and 36 this year just because of the way that he's able to avoid hard contact and, stay relevant in a ball game. So, yeah, I'm comfortable with him in the B tier. We are winding down. Oh, look who it is. It's Corey Kluber. After I said he was an F in tier 5, he is now in tier 4. I can't believe it. Well, if he was an F in tier 5, he is an F minus, 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 minus in tier 4. If you win him as a tier 4, I think you should complain. There are not many rewards where I'm like, all right, you should probably just be very upset. There's no reason he should be in tier 4. And if he is, they should redo their whole prize structure because I don't know who's spending money on him. I can't imagine his price is pushing him up. Yeah. Corey Kluber's an F minus. Mark Canha. Dude's kind of been the definition of mid, but not in a bad way for a really long time. He's just been mid is often used to be mean. I'm not trying to say it in a mean way about Mark Canha here. He's been very serviceable for a long period of time. He's got enough power. He hits for enough average. But he's not playing that much for the Mets. He plays just about every other day and then occasionally gets on a run of games. He's kind of a C minus here. Doesn't do a ton. Doesn't do so super little. The playing time is a bit of an issue. I have a hard time leaving him in C right now. I'm going to move him down to the D tier purely on playing time. I think he's a fine player, but if I can't count on you to play 3 games in a row, you're of no use to me. All right, Rich Hill. He's 43. He throws slow. He should be a tier 5. He's on a bad team. He doesn't do anything. That 88-mile-an-hour fastball. I don't know, man. He's got a 1-to-1 strikeout. But yeah, 12th percentile barrel, 12th percentile xlug, 14th percentile xPA. He's 43, man. You can't be happy about that. He's not going to help you a lot. That's an F. Adam Ottavino. Given what's going on in Mets country with that bullpen and, losing Edwin Diaz early, Ottavino stepped into a pretty solid spot. He's a co-closer on what is supposed to be a good team, but it's mostly David Robertson getting the save opportunities, I believe. But Ottavino is a guy who's going to be counted on, and if the Mets do right the ship, he's going to be counted on pretty deep into October, you would think or hope. He's 37, but he misses a lot of bats. He's a solid C. I think you're happy to get him. I want to put him up into brash range, but because of the age and because of, not doing, 2 strikeouts per inning, then he's going to stay in C. Brandon Williamson is a guy I put in here because I don't know much about him. I know he's a rookie. 91-mile-an-hour fastball. That's 8th percentile. As of right now, who the pitcher Brandon Williamson is right now, you're not going to be super happy about him, but he does have a 45 future value. You can be happy about that. That looks like a C to me. He's a middling rookie. Probably won't be anything too super, but at least you get longevity out of that spot. Giovanni Gallegos, I say this on a day where he got a save for St. Louis because Ryan Helsley had been pitching a lot. Gallegos has, 2 saves in the last week and a hold. He's pretty solid. He's only 30, 18 strikeouts in 19 innings, another kind of 1-to-1 guy. The comparison points here are Ottavino and Chafin. He's younger than both, strikes out about the same amount of batters as Ottavino, but he's on a better team than Chafin. I think the 3 of them are kind of a toss-up. Gallegos, on the age, Chafin on the strikeouts, Ottavino on the team and the role, but they're kind of all the same there for me. But I mean, Gallegos, I'm pretty sure is going to win people a couple of tournaments this week. He's got like 58 or something, and he's a guy who can do that. So you'd be happy with him coming off this week. Craig Kimbrell, he is a closer, and he's on what is supposed to be a pretty decent team. Craig Kimbrell as a tier four, I think, is in the A spot at least, until Jose Alvarado returns. He's not the same guy he was. He is older. Yeah, Craig Kimbrell is 34, hard hit percentile, 3rd hard hit percentile, 4th percentile barrel rate, but 99th percentile K rate, 93rd percent expected batting average. So he's been really effective, especially as he's kind of taken over that closer role for the Phillies. The A row might be a little generous for Craig Kimbrell. I would rather have him than Lang at this moment in time, given this role. And same comparative to Cano, despite the other two probably being better pitchers and they're going to be around a little longer. As a tier four, I'm kind of mad that I have, 3 relief pitchers in the A row. But if I moved anyone down, it would be Lang and Kimbrell. I would leave Cano there because he's just so good right now. That's something that I haven't really accounted for a ton in this series is like what are their prices? I don't really have the time while I'm on here to search everyone's prices, but like if you can get a decent amount for Craig Kimbrell and you win him, then that makes him a better prize, obviously. But generally they're in tier 4 because their prices are all the same. Kimbrell is definitely a guy I would rather buy than win because his price is going to be a little lower. All right, 4 more. Jose Berrios. Who boy, he's been about the worst pitcher in the league at times, but he's got great stuff. He's still only 28. His hard hit percentile this year is 80th. His xERA divided by xWOBA is 27th percentile. He's not walking a ton. He's striking out, kind of middle of the road. I don't know, man. 1-to-1 strikeout. I would rather have him than any of these other starters. I'm willing to put Jose Berrios in the B tier as a tier 4. Again, in a vacuum, not super jazzed about winning him, but he's got the stuff. He's still young. He was an all-star at one point. I think he can rebound. And, he's got enough run support to where he can get you a couple of wins and get you that 5-point bonus. All right, Kyle Finnegan, another closer on a bad team. He's not always the closer, though. Closes some games, and then sometimes he's in the 6th inning. He's their best relief pitcher, and that's not saying much. I'm not willing to move him into the A tier because I don't know how steady his role is. Actually, take that back. I know how steady his role is. It's not very. Yeah, he can get you saves. I'm happy to have him. He projects pretty well, but I'm starting to worry about, where that projection's going to head once the systems kind of realize that he's not going to be in these positions a lot. Adam Frazier, not a guy that's going to hit you a ton of home runs. He is playing pretty much every day and hitting, in the top to middle part of the order. He ranges anywhere from the top of the order to, 8th. So it depends day by day. He's going to hit lower against lefties. 31 years old, pretty middling, 54th percentile xWOBA. I think you're happy to have him. I wouldn't rather have him than Eddie Rosario because I know Rosario can do more with the bat in his hands as opposed to Adam Frazier, who's not going to hit you a ton of home runs. He's got 6 stolen bases, 765 OPS. Maybe I would rather have him than Rosario. I'm not quite sure. But I don't see anything that precipitates me moving him to the B row. And our final player is Brusdar Graterol from the Dodgers. Graterol in kind of a co-closer situation with Evan Phillips. I do think Evan Phillips is the better pitcher, but Graterol over time could become that. He throws harder. He's got a save in the last couple of days, but that was a game that Evan Phillips won, so that's kind of the order. Phillips was in first, and then Graterol had to come in. I don't know if that was a 9th inning situation or what, but who do they trust? Who do they trust more? It's a good team. He's a young player, not even 25. He's 24 and change, 50 future value. I like him a lot. I hate how many relief pitchers I have up here, but there are some with some really good roles here in tier 4. So Graterol's going to head into the B tier. But that'll do it. There are a lot of other players that I didn't cover in this tier. But again, like I said before, as I look through them, no one really moves the needle for me. Like Connor Joe, after looking through this, Connor Joe is a guy that we didn't talk about, but he's not an F because he does get some amount of playing time. Dominic Smith, kind of that same sort of guy. Eric Haas, another one of those guys who's kind of like C to D range. So I probably could have added a few of these guys. Jake Irvin just had a really nice debut for the Nationals, but none of these guys really move the needle. I just wanted to talk about a specific bunch. Joey Weimer from the Brewers could be good. John Gray. These are all C level players. If I won them, I'd be like, all right, this makes sense. And I, again, don't feel like I'm getting away with something. I don't feel like I tricked Sorare when I win some of those guys. So I just wanted to hit on some of the more notable names, or guys we've talked about this year, or guys who are kind of in the baseball zeitgeist. But yeah, that's it. That's a tier 4 tier list. I've lost the light. I've been doing this so long. So yeah, any you agree with, any you disagree with, leave it in the comments section. And if you watched all this way, I'm going to give you a chance to win one of my cards. Deciding this right now, Austin Nola. If you watch this far, you have a chance to win my Austin Nola rare reward from last week. The way to win is to just drop me a comment. Let me know who you disagree with. Let me know who you think should be higher. Any comment on the list, and comment with your Sorare handle name, and I will enter you into the Austin Nola giveaway. That's it for me. I'm all done. Tier 3 coming soon. I don't know how I'm going to pick who I cover in that list because it is extensive. If you want to join the Sorare FP family, head on over to patreon.com/SorareFP. $5 for the projections, $10 for projections and pricing information, and the Discord with all the experts who have been winning so much this year. Come join us, and maybe even get a free trial over at patreon.com/SorareFP. Tier 3 list coming soon. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to drop those comments and enter the giveaway. Until then, I'll see you.